Hello there everyone, and welcome to Craft Your Life Project Kit Watercolor Flowers Layering Guide video. So first up, I've stamped both of the images from the stamp set onto some white cardstock using some jet black ink. I'm then going to take the first of the stencils and I'm going to pop that into place over the three large flowers that we can see in the center. For this one here, I will be using some of the baby pink ink, and I'm just using a small blending tool to add the ink through the stencil and color the flowers. Once that's done, I can then remove the stencil and move that over slightly just to add in the other larger flowers on the top part of this one here. For this one, I will be using some of the Sunray inks. There's a really beautiful kind of buttery yellow orange color there. So once that's done, we're just going to shift that stencil over, and this time it's going to add in the second layers for both of those two clusters of flowers that we've done. So for the pink ones, I am going to be using the fuchsia ink, and I'm trying to kind of direct that within the pink ones that I've done. And then for the second layer of the yellow flowers, I will be using the chamomile ink. Again, I'm using a small blending tool to push the ink through the stencil. Once that's done, I can move that stencil over again, and this is going to add in the third layer again for both of the sets of the flowers. So for the third layer of the pink ones, I will be using the magenta ink. And for the third layers of the orangey yellow flowers now, I will be using the Snapdragon. Once that's done, I'm going to shift that stencil over and I'm going to add in the kind of flower centers for the little flowers that we have that are orange, and I will be using the marigold ink. I can then move the stencil over and then add in the other flower centers too, again with the marigold ink. I'm then going to move on to stencil number 2, and I'm going to pop that into place. This is going to add in some of the leaves and stems, and I am going to be using the Mountain Mist ink to add that through the stencil to color those images in. Once that's done, I can move this stencil up slightly, and this is going to add in the second layer to the images that we've just colored, the little leaves, and also a little detail to the flower centers too. So for this layer here, I will be using the Volcano Lake ink. And I am using that small blending tool again to add that the ink through the stencil. Once that's done, I can remove that stencil, and we're going to move on to stencil number 3. Now, first off, on the bottom corner, the bottom right, we have the third layer for the little leaves that we've already colored. So for these ones here, I will be using the lagoon to add those into place. Once that's done, I'm going to move that stencil over again, and this is going to add in the rest of the leaves. And for these ones here, I will be using the Shadow Creek ink. So these only have one layer of color. So I'm trying to add more of the color that I have, more of the ink to the base, and then kind of graduate that color up to give that beautiful look there. So once that has been done, we can move on to stencil number 4 and the next cluster. This is the one with the large flower, and I have popped that into place. And for this base layer of the large flower, I will be using the baby pink ink. We also have some little leaves that are still in place when we line up that flower. And for these ones, I will be using the Mountain Mist to add those in there. I'm then going to move that stencil over slightly and add in the second layer to that large flower, and I will be using the fuchsia ink to do that one there. We also have the base layer for the cluster flowers on this cluster of flowers, and I am going to be using the Sunray ink to add those into place. Once that's done, we can then remove this stencil and move on to stencil number 5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the leaves first. And this also lines up the third layer of the large flower. So for the third layer of the large flower, I will be using the magenta ink. I'm then going to take the Shadow Creek ink, and I'm going to add in the rest of the leaves. So these leaves that I'm coloring in now, again, like before, only have one layer of color. So I am trying to add more of that ink to the base to give us that graduated color on there. I'm then going to move this stencil over and then add in the flower centers for both the large flower and all of the little ones. And I will be using the marigold ink to add those into place. I'm then going to move this stencil over, and this is going to add in a second layer to those leaves. And I am going to be using the Volcano Lake ink to add these into place, just to add in that darker shadow to those leaves. Once that's done, we can remove that stencil and then move on to the last one. So this is number 6. I'm just going to pop in the rest of the leaves, and I'm going to go back to that lightest color that I had before, and this is the Mountain Mist ink. So I'm just going to add that through the stencil to add in the colors to the spaces that we have on the stencil. Once that's done, we can move the second layer for the flower clusters into place, and I will be using the chamomile ink to add this darker shade to the images, just using a small blending tool. Once that's done, we can move that stencil up again, and we're going to add in the third layer. This time we will be using the Snapdragon ink. Once that's done, we can remove the stencil, and here is the layering complete. We really do hope this video helps. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.